The clatter of a hammer echoed across the quiet street as Emma Brooks, a 29-year-old woman, paused at her porch. She frowned at the sight of a man broad-shouldered, in his mid-30s, sweat streaking down his temple repairing the fence she thought still belonged to her. With every nail he drove, her unease grew. "Hey!" Emma called, her voice sharp. "What do you think you're doing?" The man looked up, piercing blue eyes steady. He wiped his hands on his jeans, pulled a folded envelope from his back pocket, and held it out. "My name's Luke Carter," he said, "and these are the papers with my name on them." Emma's heart stuttered. "Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin." ***, Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Papers? What papers?" she demanded, stepping closer, her sandals crunching against gravel. Luke didn't flinch. He unfolded the deed, yellowed at the edges but marked with fresh ink, his name scrawled across in legal permanence. "This house," he said calmly, though his voice carried a weight Emma couldn't ignore, "was signed over to me 3 weeks ago. I didn't want to cause a scene. Just fixing what's broken before my little girl moves in." The mention of a child softened the sharpness in Emma's chest. She glanced toward the driveway, where a small figure sat in the passenger seat of an old pickup truck, a girl, maybe 8, her blonde hair tied in messy pigtails, clutching a stuffed bunny. Emma swallowed. "Your daughter?" Luke nodded. "Sophie. She deserves a safe place. A fence that doesn't fall if she leans on it." The kindness in his words clashed with the sting of reality. This house, her grandmother's house, was supposed to be hers, or so she thought. Her parents had promised. But promises meant little when signatures were forged behind closed doors. Anger curled in her stomach, but Emma's eyes drifted back to Sophie. The child gave a small wave, shy yet hopeful. Something inside Emma cracked. Luke's gaze softened. "Look, Emma, I know you're blindsided. But I didn't take this from you. I paid every dime, scraped every dollar. Nights I went hungry so Sophie could eat. This deed, it's proof we finally have a shot at something stable." Emma's voice trembled. "Then why does it feel like I've been robbed?" The silence between them thickened, only broken by Sophie's muffled cough from the truck. Luke's face tightened, fatherly instinct, raw and protective. Without another word, Emma turned and walked inside, slamming the door. Yet, even as the echo rattled through the empty halls, she couldn't erase the image of that little girl, holding onto a stuffed bunny as if it were her entire world. The slam of the door echoed like thunder, but Emma didn't lean against it to steady herself. She stormed straight into the kitchen, heart pounding as though her chest was too small to contain it. The kitchen looked exactly as it had the day her grandmother passed away. Pale curtains fluttering in the breeze, ceramic teacups still on the shelf, the faint smell of lavender that had lingered in the walls for years. Emma pressed her palms to the countertop, whispering through clenched teeth, "How could they do this? How could my parents hand it all away?" Her throat burned. She had clung to this house as her last tether to family history, to every summer memory spent running through the backyard. And now a stranger, a single dad with pleading blue eyes and a little girl, was claiming it with papers. A knock rattled the door. Not loud, almost hesitant. "Emma," Luke's voice carried through the wood, steady but not forceful. "I'm not here to fight you." She bit her lip, refusing to answer. Minutes passed. Then softer, "Sophie's hungry. I was going to cook something on the tailgate, but would you mind if I use the stove? I'll replace whatever I use, promise." Emma blinked. The audacity. Yet beneath it, there was humility too. She opened the door just enough to see him standing there, hat in his hands, shoulders taut as if expecting rejection. Behind him, Sophie sat hugging her bunny, eyes wide and hopeful. Emma's voice came out sharper than intended. You think You can just walk into this house and cook? Luke shook his head quickly. No, I just wanted to ask. She hasn't eaten since breakfast. Emma's gaze shifted to the little girl, whose cheeks were flushed, lips dry. Something inside Emma softened despite herself. She opened the door wider and muttered, "Fine, but don't think this changes anything." Luke gave a grateful nod and stepped in, carrying a small grocery bag. Sophie followed timidly, her tiny sneakers squeaking against the tile. Emma leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching as Luke unpacked simple ingredients: bread, peanut butter, apples, a carton of milk. He moved with practiced efficiency, hands rough but careful. Sophie climbed onto a chair at the table, eyes darting shyly to Emma before quickly looking away. "You don't have to just sit there glaring," Luke said gently, spreading peanut butter across the bread. "This isn't a takeover. It's survival," Emma scoffed. "Easy for you to say." "That survival cost me everything." Luke didn't look up. "It cost me everything, too. You think I wanted to be scraping change for legal fees, to beg banks to take a chance on me? I didn't buy this place out of luxury, Emma. I bought it because my daughter needed walls that wouldn't leak and a roof that wouldn't cave in." His voice cracked slightly, but he steadied it. He slid the sandwich in front of Sophie, who whispered, "Thank you, Daddy," before taking a bite with small, grateful hands. Emma's chest tightened. She couldn't remember the last time anyone in her family had thanked her with that kind of sincerity. Luke finally met her eyes. "I'm not your enemy." The words clung to her thoughts long after. She walked to the sink, staring out at the backyard. The fence, half mended, half broken, seemed like a metaphor for everything between them. Broken history, splintered promises, and yet small pieces being nailed back together by a man who had nothing but grit and love for his child. Emma whispered, more to herself than him, "It wasn't supposed to be like this." Luke joined her at the sink, keeping a respectful distance. "Maybe it wasn't, but life doesn't care about supposed tos. It cares about who shows up when things are falling apart." She turned to him, anger and exhaustion mixing in her eyes. "And you think that's you?" His jaw tightened, but his tone stayed calm. "I know it's me, because I don't quit. Not on my daughter, not on a promise." For a moment, silence wrapped around them. The only sound was Sophie's munching, the little girl humming to herself between bites. As if oblivious to the storm around her. Emma felt a tug in her chest, jealousy, maybe, or longing. Her parents had never fought for her with that kind of devotion. They had chosen business deals and favoritism, leaving Emma with scraps of affection. And now, they had given away her grandmother's home without even telling her. She clenched her fists. "I'm not going down without answers. My parents owe me that much." Luke's expression softened, though shadow still lingered in his eyes. "Then demand it. Don't let them silence you. You've got more fight in you than you realize." Emma looked at him, startled. "Why do you even care what I do?" He gave a small, weary smile. "Because I know what it feels like to be treated as less, to be overlooked. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone, even the woman who thinks I stole her home." His kindness, unexpected, uncalculated, slipped past her defenses. She looked away, blinking hard, because her vision had begun to blur. That night, Emma sat alone in her grandmother's bedroom, staring at the faded wallpaper and clutching an old photograph of her as a child on the same porch Luke had been repairing. The house felt less like hers with every breath. And yet, for the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, it wasn't about ownership at all. That maybe it was about who would fill these walls with love again, and the image of Sophie's soft wave from the truck haunted her until sleep finally claimed her. Morning light streamed through the thin curtains, painting the old bedroom in muted gold. Emma blinked awake, the photo of her grandmother still clutched in her hand. For a moment she forgot the storm outside her thoughts. Then she heard laughter, a child's laughter floating up from the kitchen. She sat up sharply. Sophie. Emma patted down the creaking stairs, barefoot, cautious. In the kitchen, Luke stood at the stove, frying eggs in a pan that had been her grandmother's favorite. Sophie sat cross-legged at the table, coloring on printer paper with a pack of worn crayons. The sight of them together hit Emma harder than expected. They looked at home. More at home than she had felt in years. "You're making yourself comfortable," Emma said, voice colder than she intended. Luke glanced over, spatula in hand. Didn't want Sophie going hungry. "We'll clean everything up before we leave." His words "before we leave" echoed in her ears. "Wait, leave?" Emma stepped closer. "You said this house was yours." Luke nodded slowly. "It is. But I'm not here to throw you out on the street, Emma. I'm not that man. I know what it feels like to be blindsided. If you need time to figure things out, we'll stay in the truck a few nights until—" "No," Emma interrupted, more fiercely than she expected. The thought of them leaving tightened something in her chest. Sophie shouldn't be sleeping in a truck. Not when there's a roof here. Luke's eyes softened, gratitude flickering in their depths. "That's kind of you. But kindness doesn't erase the fact that you've been wronged." Emma folded her arms, chewing on her lip. "I need answers. My parents told me for years this place would be mine. My grandmother wanted it for me. And now, suddenly it's yours? Someone's lying, Luke, and I'm going to find out who." Luke turned back to the stove, his shoulders tense. "Then let me stand with you. Because whatever deal they cut behind your back, I doubt it was clean." The intensity in his voice startled her. She stared at him, seeing not just a weary single dad, but a man who had clawed through every obstacle for his daughter. A man who wouldn't back down when something mattered. Emma whispered, "Why would you help me?" He set the spatula down, meeting her eyes with a quiet fire. "Because I want Sophie to grow up knowing that doing the right thing is never optional, even when it's hard. Even when it costs you everything." Something inside Emma broke open. For years she had been told to stay quiet, to accept whatever scraps her parents gave. But here was a man who had nothing and still refused to bow. By afternoon, Emma stood on her parents' doorstep, Luke a steady presence beside her. Sophie stayed in the truck, drawing hearts on fogged glass. Her mother, Diane Brooks, opened the door, pearls around her neck, irritation already on her face. "Emma, what are you doing here?" Emma's voice trembled, but her chin lifted. "Why did you sell Grandma's house without telling me?" Diane's eyes flickered. "It wasn't your house to begin with. We handled the finances. You wouldn't understand." Luke stepped forward, voice firm but respectful. "With all due respect, ma'am, I think she deserves an explanation. The house wasn't just a financial asset. It was a promise." Diane's glare shifted to him. "And you are?" "Luke Carter, the man who bought it." For the first time, Diane faltered, her lips pressed tight. "That property was undervalued. We needed a quick sale. You should be thanking us for letting you have it." Emma's breath caught. "Letting? Grandma wanted me to have it. You knew that." Her father, Richard Brooks, appeared in the doorway, his tone sharp as glass. "Your grandmother was sentimental. Sentiment doesn't pay bills. We made the right decision. Move on, Emma." But Emma didn't flinch. "Not this time. Move on?" Her voice rose, shaking but fierce. "You sold my future behind my back. You traded my memories for cash, and you expect me to just smile and accept it?" Richard's face darkened. "Watch your tone. We are your parents." Emma's fists trembled, but Luke's steady hand brushed her arm's silent strength, reminding her she wasn't alone. "No," she said firmly. "You stopped being my parents the moment you decided money mattered more than me." The words hung in the air like thunder. Diane scoffed, dramatic as always. Luke finally spoke, voice low but cutting. "You can dismiss her all you want, but I've seen what she's fighting for. And if Sophie's taught me anything, it's this: kids don't forget when their parents choose themselves over them. Richard's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Emma turned, her chest heavy but lighter somehow. She walked down the steps, Luke falling into stride beside her. Sophie waved eagerly from the truck. When they drove away, Emma stared at the horizon, tears slipping free. I thought taking them on would make me feel whole. But I just feel empty. Luke glanced at her. Empty is where new beginnings start. Trust me, I've lived in empty for years. His words sank deep. That night, back at the house, Emma watched Sophie twirl in the backyard, her bunny tucked under one arm. The repaired fence framed the moment like a photograph. Luke sat on the porch steps, quiet but watchful. A man who had carried the weight of survival alone for too long. Emma sat beside him. You know, maybe this house doesn't have to be mine or yours. Maybe it can just be ours. A place that finally means something good again. Luke turned, surprised, his voice hushed. Are you sure? Emma nodded, a small smile breaking through. I'm tired of fighting to belong where I was never wanted. But here, watching Sophie laugh, I feel like I'm exactly where I should be. Luke's eyes softened, gratitude shimmering. He didn't speak, but the silence between them was heavy with unspoken truths. As the stars blinked alive above them, Emma realized something her parents would never understand. True ownership wasn't about deeds or signatures. It was about the love that filled a place, the laughter that echoed in its halls, the kindness that stitched broken pieces together. And in that moment, with Sophie's giggles carrying into the night, Emma knew this house finally had a chance to become a home again.